Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of the AI Advantage Show. We're your hosts, Colin Episcopo and Kim Reynolds. And we're here
Hello.
to equip marketers and professionals like you with the insights and connections needed to gain the competitive edge using AI. And today's episode, we'll be unpacking the latest AI trends, talking about some news, and discussing how you can use AI as a collaborative partner in marketing. Kim, who do we have today?
Well, today we have Ben Fisher, and like my kids use the term, he's an OG when it comes to everything SEO, marketing, Google. He's Google Business Profile Diamond Product Expert, which is pretty rare and pretty amazing. He's been in SEO forever and social media, well, since 1994, which is kind of forever. He's a contributor to the local search rankings factor survey, but probably most well known for being co-founder of Steady Demand. And Steady Demand works with agencies and businesses to maximize outsourced local SEO and social media. So he's been around for a while and definitely passionate about AI, which is what we are here to talk about today.
Very cool. Very cool.
Just a little bit of a dinosaur.
And before we talk to you, Ben, I just wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor, the AI Prompt Exchange. The AI Prompt Exchange is where you can go to get over 2,000 AI marketing prompts. I believe it's the biggest database of marketing prompts online. So you can go to the AIpromptexchange.com. You can contribute prompts if you've had prompts that have been successful in your campaigns and your marketing that you want to share with the other users there. And then also you can get any prompts that you need, and they're all filtered by campaign types and different verticals and things like that. And you can customize them for your unique application and for the businesses and things you're marketing. So go ahead and check out the AIpromptexchange.com. All right, Ben, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Right on.
Yeah.
Love your show. Love everything you got going on here.
Thank you. So you were, as Kim said, you're kind of an OG. So when did you first start getting into AI and recognizing its usage? And what did you begin with? What did you start doing?
Well, being in digital marketing, especially starting in the 90s, right? You always had to keep looking out for different types of patterns. And because we were just learning things back then, there was no such thing as SEO. There was no email marketing or anything like that. It was kind of like you're just bootstrapping and learning it from the ground up and creating things. So, but really what happened is after I left doing marketing for the web hosting industry, right as I was starting Steady Demand, I really started getting heavily involved in basically any kind of things that had to do with machine learning more than anything else, simply because Google was basically starting their shift from links to things. And this really started when Google came up with what was called the Hummingbird update. And the Hummingbird update was literally about rewiring how Google search worked and trying to derive more from a semantic standpoint, the ontologies and the meaning behind a word or an intent or a phrase to really give the searcher that kind of one result. And of course, that didn't really happen until, now, right, where we have BART and where we have the generative search, basically, search results, at least it's in beta. But really, that's what they've been working towards this entire time. And so in 2013, basically, I really got heavily kind of in deep with it. G Plus had come out. And this is actually Google Plus is where I met my good friend Dustin. Kim, I think actually we met around that time as well.
We did.
And yeah, I was Social Media Examiner, right? And but I was looking at G Plus from a different perspective than I think most. I was kind of digging around in the code and trying to understand and take a look at it and go, why is Google actually doing this? What are they trying to do? Are they really trying to beat everybody on social? That doesn't make that much sense. It kind of goes against actually the mission that Google has. So as I'm digging through the code, I'm starting to look at things and again, just kind of analyzing the code and looking for patterns. And it kind of dawned on me one day that what if Google was using Google Plus to actually teach its own internal algorithm about user behavior and then to promote content and promote websites and entities based on engagement and what it learned? And so it was a high up here concept, but so I had to go ahead and try and prove it. And so I took a couple of my web hosting customers, and basically we started just kind of playing around with it and experimenting with it. And within 6 months, ended up starting to have some good aha moments and some good real results that I could replicate basically across almost all clients. And it was exactly what I thought it was, which was kind of neat. Which was is using G plus as kind of a semantic learning engine, basically machine learning at its best, I guess you could say. But it was super easy to manipulate. That was what I thought was good and the problem. And so anyway, yeah, that's basically where I really got started when it came in with anything, semantics, basically machine learning. And then of course, when ChatGPT came out, my ears perked up again. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. This is like large language models for the masses. This is cool.
Yeah.
Got to get back into it.
What a cool story, Ben. So basically you saw like, hey, Google Plus isn't adding up, right? And we've all kind of, if you're a marketer, you've kind of been involved in some point. I know Kim was a big fan. I definitely loved it for a certain phase. And, you were kind of forced onto the platform, right? If you had
Sure.
any sort of Google account, right? And so your question was, wait a second, this doesn't, make sense with their brand values and their brand goals. There's something else is up here. And you kind of did the digging and then was like, wow, they're kind of building an algorithm. They're using this for machine learning. Essentially, this is their
Correct.
data set, right? And you're able to kind of prove that out. And then sure enough, now we have OpenAI and everything else. So now that this is all here for the masses, now what do we do? How do we leverage this? How are you currently leveraging this? And how can we use this as our collaborative partner?
So when ChatGPT first came out in November, right, I was kind of looking at it and going, this might be a fad, right? And then I'm watching the hype meter go up in December, and I'm like, okay, this is not a fad. And then January, it went mainstream. And so basically, I guess you could say December is really when I adopted taking a look at ChatGPT and kind of digging into it and kind of doing the same thing, just trying to figure out, okay, what is the use here? What is the use case going to be here? What are the dangers going to be? Looking forward to see basically just because of the world I live in and local, again, focusing in on like, well, how is this going to be abused? And then more and off then, how is it going to be used in a sense for good, right? For the good of marketers. In January, as I was preparing to go to PubCon and go speak, and we all had to integrate basically a little bit of AI into all of our presentations. Brett Tapke said it great, and I don't know who originally made up this line. It might have been Brett, and that is that AI is not going to put you out of business. It's somebody who is using AI that is going to put you out of business. And that statement really struck to me. And it's like, he's right. It's 100% correct. It's like your job's not going to get threatened just because of AI. Well, hopefully. But for the most part, it's going to be somebody who knows how to use it as a tool and can wield that tool very effectively, whether that be for saving costs, or being able to extract and gain information and give that information, say, to a client very quickly versus somebody who has to sit there and compile it manually. Or like I was talking to a company the other day, they do postcards, they do mailing for a very specific type of vertical. Actually, it was cards. And they were like, how can we use AI? And I was like, well, okay, so you've got this terabytes of data on these dealerships in these areas that you have to kind of go through almost manually to be able to say to a client that you should be selling X in your area and it will do Y for you. You'll get these many leads. So I said, well, why don't you build an AI model? Okay, build your own in-house AI model and basically have it so when the salesperson's on a call, they can just input a URL of the client into a tool, have the AI model automatically just go out, grab the logo from the website, analyze the content of the website, look at the geographical area, look at what you're selling, cross-reference that with the database that you already have, and then spit out a result that the salesperson can now use as a tool. and do all that within a couple seconds and send the client, the prospect, a mock-up at the same time. This can all be done with the proper API usage. Wouldn't be easy, but it can be done. And it's just an example of how a business, if you think about things creatively, how using something like ChatGPT or just LLMs in general can really assist your business.
Everyone's talking about ChatGPT, like it's the only option out there, and it's not. And I use Bard a lot more lately than I used to. When Bard first came out, I wasn't super impressed. But now I find that I use it probably at least 30% of the time. And the other 70, I use Magi, and I use it with ChatGPT. And I'm just curious, because you're very deeply entrenched in Google, what's your favorite LLM?
Okay, so I started out, of course, ChatGPT, like everybody else. Of course, we all quickly realized the limitations of ChatGPT too.
Mm,
One of which was being, of course, age and time as far as knowledge goes, right? And
Yeah.
no, you couldn't do links or anything like that at that time. So what I got into the habit of doing, and I kind of still do this to this very day, is when I want to build a prompt, I will start my prompt in Magi, right, and
mhm,
using ChatGPT, and then I'll switch over to the mode of using Claude Advanced too,
mhm,
right, and I'll do the same
mhm,
prompt. And
Hmm.
if it spits out garbage, I'll be like, okay, why is it spitting out garbage? Okay, let me figure out how do I need to rewrite this prompt so Claude will give me exactly what I got from GPT or vice versa, right? Then, for grins and giggles, just because I like to beat my head against the wall, I'll try it in Bing. Of course, if you use Bing Creative Mode, that's using ChatGPT 4, but it still actually messes things up because it's Bing. And if you go into any of the other modes from Bing, it gets even more interesting.
Hmm.
But if you can find a good one in Bing, the data is actually really decent because you're talking real-time web, right? So I'll try it in Bing very quickly, and then I will go to Bard. My preference has probably always been split between ChatGPT and Bard. However, kind of like what you're saying, Kim, is Bard is starting to become a lot more like my favorite. You
Hmm.
know, with some of the enhancements that ChatGPT has done just in the last or announced in the last couple of days, I don't know. I might actually probably lean back towards ChatGPT, OpenAI.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anthropic was just kind of dealt the death blow. I think they're going to
Oh,
have to
really?
adapt really quickly. Because now
Yeah.
that you've got ChatGPT actually being able to handle more context window,
Hmm.
so
Yeah, that used to be
Yeah.
their big
Yeah.
thing, right? Which is where basically the window of context where the AI and the current chat that you're doing, it's going to remember all of that information that you're talking to, right? It's not going to like, it's like somebody who's forgetting, the first part of a conversation that you're having if you're talking to them. So that's what we're talking about with that context window, and that was one of the limitations with ChatGPT. But now that is so much bigger now with GPT-4. Claude kind of lost the advantage. And I've noticed
yeah,
that they've kind of hard coded in some like ethics stuff. And so it will, I don't know if you've experienced this, and it's
Kind of
because
have.
I actually really like Claude, but it's been really frankly annoying because even if I just use my like assistant, it'll be like, hey, let me give you an ethical answer. And I'm like, you don't need to remind me of this.
Exactly.
And so they've kind of just hard coded that in. And I don't like anything like that. I like to be able to instruct the AI as I please and have it give me the output I want. So
I have a
what
client
about
that
Llama?
does.
What about
I have a client. I was just really quickly. I have a
yeah,
client
yeah.
that does like blood transfusions, and if you use the word blood with Anthropic, it it throws up the guardrail basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if
Mhm.
what you're talking about is nothing to do with like blood or
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah. And I get that. These are just kind of safety measures. I run into the same thing with SCXL, where it's like certain words, it's like it's not going to let you do that for image generation and things like that. So, have you used Llama at all, which is Meta's AI? I haven't played with it
No,
too much, but okay.
I haven't. Although I hate to say it, I'm actually excited about what's coming down the line with from Musk, only because he's got the money and the resources to put something behind it.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. So what we're talking about now is Grok, which is based off of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So this is Twitter X's
Favorite
new
movie.
new AI. Yeah, and what's cool is it sounds like a little bit of like what you were talking about with Google Plus, except it's going to be with Twitter. It sounds like, hey, it's just going to learn from Twitter
Yeah,
and all the data there, which is
exactly.
going to be interesting. So maybe it's gonna send mean tweets all day.
And as a society, it's like, do we need to worry about this becoming true generative AI, right? True generative AI is described as something which is actually kind of pretty much sentient
Mhm.
and can start to learn and build on its own. And I think it's been predicted that within 5 years, we're probably going to see true generative AI. That's going to be interesting. That I think is going to make, us in the marketing field probably have to worry just a little bit. Um, just because, if AI can actually truly learn from such a large data set, which is the world, then certain things could become replaceable.
Well, that's gonna be really interesting. I'm excited. I don't like the idea of my job being threatened, but I do love technology and all the advances. I was thinking when we were talking about context windows. Remember back in the day when computers first came out, and it was like a really big deal. And the memory on a computer and
Yeah.
storage, even
Right.
storage. But and then slowly, and then I remember back in well, I don't even remember the year. It was a long time ago. And they got it to like 1 gigabyte.
Yep.
And it was like, kidding. Do
And
you
you had
think context windows,
512K of RAM.
yeah, do you think that context windows are going to be kind of like that? We see these enormous jumps in
Yeah.
ability and capacity.
It's going to have to happen. It really is. And I get it. I understand why they have to limit the context window. They have to limit the context window because they only have so much processing power. At the end of the day, what I really love to tell people is that these LLMs, what we are branded marketing wise as AI, this is not true AI. Not in the least bit is it true AI. I like to say this very simple. This is computers doing computer stuff, which means garbage in, garbage out still applies.
Hmm.
And we see that with building prompts, right? So if you're building a crappy prompt, you're going to get back crappy information. Whereas generative AI might be like, hold on, are you actually trying to do this? Oh, wait a minute, let me do that for you. And so that's a whole nother discussion. But
Right, where it would actually be like, "Hey, I think you're trying to write a prompt about this, but you kind of messed up, and it's going to actually help you get there, right?"
exactly.
Um, which you can kind of replicate a little bit now, which sometimes I'll do, where I'll say, "Hey, here's what I'm trying to do. I might not know exactly how to do it. Can you tell me what you need to do it?" Right? You kind of ask it to
Hmm.
to ask you the questions, and it's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, here's 12." I recently did that just building out a persona. I was trying to kind of
Yep.
build out this AI, got my little side projects, an AI like streamer persona, and I said, hey, what do you need to know about this? Let's build this whole backstory for this, like basically built it this whole AI character. I think Ben knows what I'm talking about,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it was really cool, and it's like made this whole unique character and stuff, but I wouldn't have known kind of what it needed. It had to give me all those questions, and then of course in a separate window I've got my other prompt that I brought up to actually write the content, and then was able to do it. But so in a sense, you can kind of do that a little bit. But maybe we should talk about kind of like some of your best practices for prompt writing and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things, by the way, I love to say is that asking ChatGPT or any of these to write a prompt for me is probably one of my favorite prompts.
Yeah, totally.
It's
Totally.
like, because it's like I'm trying to explain like exactly what I'm trying to do, and it's like I can't quite get it. It's like,
Yep.
can you write this prompt for me? And it'll be like,
Yeah.
yes. Give it to me, and now, hey, I've got a prompt which I can save for later. So,
Yeah. Very cool.
but yeah, let's go ahead and let's actually show
Would
the
that be the
prompt.
prompt ladder?
Yeah, let's show the prompt ladder.
Okay. Yeah. So
So,
walk us through this.
kind of like what we're discussing, right? Is that garbage in, garbage out. Building the ability for you to understand the components of what I call the prompt ladder. some people call it prompt chaining, things like that. Um, is what you can basically tell the computer to do exactly what you want it to do. And that's the concept here is that, and I'm going to break this down into 4 different parts in a second. And that's the concept here is that the more information that you can provide in your prompt letter, the better result that you're going to get out. And you only have to write these things once. The other thing is that by going through this exercise every time, it's going to show you what AI can actually help you with and what it can't help you with. Good example is like we do a ton of posts, right, which are 80 words in length. Our writers can write these things in less than 1 minute without doing any kind of research whatsoever, right? So that's their time that they spend today to write 80 words. So to write a prompt ladder, though, would take them a couple minutes, basically. So it makes no sense to use AI to do what they're doing, right? Now, for somebody who's not a writer, okay, AI might, and I put big time might, be the solution there. All right, so let's get into the details of creating a prompt ladder. So the prompt ladder, again, is a set of guidelines. You're telling the LLM, ChatGPT, Anthropic, etc., exactly what you want. So I always will start out with, I want you to act as. So you're going to give your basically the AI the role that it is supposed to play. In my example, I want you to act like a local SEO expert. What is the AI basically going to do with this? It's going to go in and it's going to look in its databases. Okay, what is a local SEO expert? What does a local SEO expert do? What are some articles on a local SEO expert? It's going to derive all the meaning that it can, of course, quickly, on what a local SEO expert is. And by the way, if you try this, just try changing out to whatever your goal is. It's like, I want you to act as an editor. I want you to act as a astronomer or whatever the case may be. I want you to act as Howie Mandel. If you want to do some jokes, it'll do it. It's great. I love it. It's perfect. Okay. Anyway, so the next thing is you're going to basically tell the AI what you want it to do. And this is actually can be extremely brief or it can be very long. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to set up your negatives at this time. This is just a directive. It's as if you're talking to somebody directly. And then so in this example, what I say is you will ask me questions to help create a local SEO strategy. And I want you to only reply as a SEO expert. So it's not necessarily a guardrail, it's a directive. And then I go into the meat of things. And this is where I put in my guardrails. So it's kind of like negative keywords, or things not to do. And by setting up the guardrails, this is where you actually can get high quality results. And your guardrails, again, they can be as many as you want or as little as you want. If you put in the prompt and it's giving you too much, give it more guardrails. Give it a limit, for instance. A good example of something that can happen if you don't do a guardrail is you say, write me a blog post about AI and marketing. Well, it's going to write something maybe 800 words in length. Okay, well, I didn't want that. I only wanted 300 words. Oops, maybe I should go put that in there. Limited to 3,000 characters, which equals 300 words. At least in Anthropic, you have to do that. You have to do it really well. In Anthropic, you have to understand the ratio of words to letters. So in this case, we say, do not write all the conversations at once. We want this to be, I forgot to actually introduce what I'm trying to accomplish here. With this, this prompt is written so it will interview me, and then it'll come back and give me a summary of what it has learned and suggest on how it can improve on what I'm doing. And then I can actually follow it up and have it do all sorts of things after that. So anyway, so I say, do not write all the conversation at once. I only want you to do an interview with me. I want you to ask me questions one at a time. I want you to wait for my answers. Do not write any explanations, because if you do that, it's going to give you explanations, right? Questions should include what industry, and this is where I'm seeding. I'm just giving a couple hints to the AI as to what I wanted to ask, because it can infer everything else from there. So questions should include what industry, where am I located, what SEO activities am I currently doing, etc. Ask me the questions one by one as an interviewer would, and wait for my answer. So again, I'm kind of reinforcing what I've already stated. And I could probably actually dump those if I really wanted to, but I've always had great results by kind of repeating myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want the result. So what is it that I want the AI to actually provide for me? And so I say, at the end, I want you to write a summary of what you have learned, along with suggestions on what I can improve with what I am doing. And then finally, I say, my first sentence is hello. Now, if you copy and paste this into ChatGPT or Claude, or, well, it won't work on Bard very well, because Bard doesn't act as this kind of an assistant. But if you put this in there, it'll start asking you questions as if it was a local SEO expert. And some of the questions actually would really surprise you, because it doesn't go off of just the questions that I've asked. It's going to branch out and ask a whole bunch of different styles of questions. So I could put another guardrail in here, and I could say, I want you to ask me 15 questions, because otherwise it's going to actually ask you only 6, by the way, just so you know, based on what you've asked it, or it's asked you, I should say. Because sometimes if you respond in a certain way, it's going to branch off into it, like I said, kind of a whole nother line of questioning to figure out kind of what you're doing wrong or what you've missed from your strategy. So anyway, that's a long way of explaining what a prompt letter is, why you use it, and how to form it. And then the last thing I'll say about this is that if you use this, even in this prompt letter, after you're done, you can actually say, I would like you to write me a blog post about this, or I would like you to write a sales email about this, as if I'm pitching this as a service, and it'll go ahead and it can do those things. Absolutely. Because now it's collected the information. And like we were saying, with the window of information now that we can store, you can do even more than that. You could write a book.
Wow. That's so cool. So, I mean, you could really do anything with this. I mean, that you could just change this up to, hey, we need to write some blog posts, for latest AI tools or something.
Yep.
Right. And then we can go from there.
What you would do is you would just augment this, and you would say, I want you to act as an editor, period. Right? Stop there. And then you'll leave everything around. You'll replace SEO expert with editor. And then you would go ahead, you would replace your seed questions, right? And then at the end, you would write what you want them to provide me. That's what you would rewrite probably the most.
I'm going to try this today, and I'm going to try it on a Facebook ads campaign and see,
Nice.
like a campaign that maybe isn't getting the results I want, and see what it can do to improve, like whether it be the copy or the creative or whatever.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, this can be fun.
Yeah. And by the way, you can actually, because we were all talking about Magi right earlier, right? You can actually store this as a prompt in Magi. As well.
Yeah, and what it's, as we're talking about Magi, this is one of my favorite tools, Kim, and I use it every day. If you want to check it out, you can check out the link. It's aiadvantageagency.com/Magi, which is MAGAI. And one of the things I want to ask you is, have you used any personas, or have you built any personas, right? Because you could build an SEO expert persona. And basically what that is, this will work for ChatGPT. If you're just out there using ChatGPT, you kind of need to tell it how it needs to behave and respond. Well, in Magi, you can just already talk to the SEO expert directly, right? So that skips a step, right? So have you created any personas in there?
Oh, yeah. So Dustin, who we were all talking about earlier in the green room, right, actually has a blog post on how to do this within Magi. And it's really actually pretty easy. All you do is you go ahead, you start create a persona, you go ahead, you point it to any articles or any content that you've actually written. And then what you do is you have Magi go basically summarize what it's discovered into a prompt, and then you save that prompt. And that prompt basically is your persona at that point. So, and then you can now select it again anytime you want, and it'll write like you. And I've tested it a couple times. It works.
It does.
It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, we
It's
all
great.
talk like, everybody should have their own AI persona. It's like, you're not gonna use it all the time, but you might. I mean, sometimes I'm like, "Hey, it's kind of writing better than I do." You
Like
gotta be a little humble with it.
I
But
told
that's
Dustin,
so true.
I told Dustin the other day that I created a Dustin Stout persona.
Yeah, that's I think he uses it.
I created it because I love his writing style, which might be a little creepy.
You just gotta send him emails. He's like, "Wait a second."
Wait a minute. Oh, that's funny.
But it is great. I mean, it's great. I use mine for LinkedIn articles and things like that, or the blogs a lot of times.
Sure.
Again, like, you want to look through everything. You make some tweaks, and I actually recently helped kind of a friend of mine who he was kind of at the deadline. It was kind of game time for a big talk he had or something. And I said, "Hey, like, let's meet. I think I can fast track you here." And he was able to do about 14 hours of work in like 30 minutes. And I built him.
Nice.
I said, "Give me some blogs," and I made a persona for him. And he's like, This is pretty good." Because he's like, "I haven't been able to figure it out yet." And I said, "You need to kind of train it how to write like you, and then you're off to the
Yeah.
races." And he still had to go in and make some tweaks, but I mean, he saved about 14 hours of work right there and was able to get it done. So
Well,
it's pretty phenomenal as far as the time saver goes.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
However, let's move into talking about the partnership in marketing,
Yeah.
the collaborative partnership that AI and marketers should have. I've been saying this kind of since day one, and that is that you can't rely on what the systems spit out. What I mean by that is you can't rely on 100%.
Mhm.
You can't just take the training wheels off and say, "Oh, well, whatever it spits out is going to be accurate." Even with ChatGPT now being as up to date, I think as January 2023 or something like that,
I think
and
April.
is it April? Okay.
April.
And with its capability to use Bing to crawl, okay, or with Anthropic or Bard's ability to crawl, even with all of that, it gets stuff wrong, real wrong. The easiest way you can see this is go to Bard and do a recipe search, right? And it's going to come up with 3 different responses usually. And one of those responses is usually going to be wrong. And, so if you go in and you're saying, write an article about X, and it's bringing up supported information, and you don't ask it specifically to cite its citations, but also cite its citations with authoritative information, right? Because otherwise it'll cite random citations. Basically, it'll just pull information, pull URLs out of nowhere. The information could be wrong. And now we're getting to a scenario where it's, again, garbage in, garbage out. And now search engines are learning from garbage, and people are reading garbage, but they don't know it's wrong. And if AI starts to feed in on itself, so it starts feeding on low quality data, then the data starts getting even worse, which is why Google actually just came out with the helpful content update. Part of the helpful content update is to demote content which is written by AI and is not useful to human beings. So yeah. So anyway, all of that being said, really what I'm trying to say is make sure you edit and read whatever it puts out. It can be a huge time saver, yes, but if you don't read it, it's more than likely going to be junk.
Yeah. Can't just blindly trust the output. It definitely, and that's where kind of the idea that, like, hey, AI is not going to replace you. You're not going to lose your job, but somebody who's savvy with it is going to be able to use it to get ahead. And it's that type of person. So you still need to be an expert or have that industry knowledge or be able to actually know what's right and what's wrong, right? And we talk about these like hallucinations, right, where the AI is just going to make things up.
Yep.
And so you need to know kind of what's real and what isn't. And to your point too is, we need some guardrails because we don't want AI learning from this kind of junk data or this like
Exactly.
this hallucination. Otherwise, it's in its own little echo chamber, and we kind of lost it, right? So we want it to continue to get good outputs, and so it needs to be training on good data.
I think it was Midjourney that there was an example of Midjourney going insane with its output
Yeah.
because somebody was feeding in AI images to build off of.
Right.
And it's like the output that it came out with was just crazy. It looked insane. But that's AI feeding off of AI. It's like you don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
I
but
wonder how different, because of the different kinds of content on Twitter, people want to say, oh, Twitter is run over by right-wing activists or whatever. And then other people will say, no, it's the left-wing activists. Everybody thinks they're an activist on Twitter. But I think that Twitter does actually have a good balance of perspectives. And so I wonder how that's going to make Grok a better source of, especially like current, not just current information, but I mean, sometimes I have used ChatGPT or Anthropic, Claude, and the results come back kind of skewed, definitely biased. And
Mhm.
I think,
yeah.
interesting. So I wonder if Grok is going to help solve that problem.
It all depends on what the engineering team does.
Yeah.
You know?
There is that.
And I will say, based on what I see them doing as far as like cracking down on bots and things like that, like I don't know if I made a new X account, right? Just because I've got like 4 or something or whatever the limit is, and I got lots of different personas, but they're really cracking down on it. I mean, a couple of times they're like, no, this is looking fishy. This is like, and I had to do all these, like, they've got some pretty unique captchas, by the way, to because the bots are really good at doing those now too. They're really cracking down on bots. So I'm a little hopeful for how this model will be just based on that and kind of seeing what kind of engineering and safeguarding they're doing. So that's encouraging to see.
It all comes back again to the garbage in, garbage out scenario.
Yeah.
Right. So if you've got a programmer who doesn't put up a guardrail for a certain type of thing, then that garbage is going to go through. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the programmers, the people that are behind it, they need to write so much code to build those guardrails, or they need to build a system which can learn, which is probably what they're going to do. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the only intelligent thing to do at a scale of that size, is to build something that can actually learn and then be able to put that through a human moderation system to check and balance on that learning. And whether they're actually going to do that or not, who knows? I can tell you that Google does this. They have teams, they have human teams that are basically are looking at the generative AI results and judging the quality of those queries and also the results as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's kind of like a form of supervised learning, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is kind of what's needed right now.
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%.
By the way, Kim, you're in the clear. Dustin says it's not creepy at all that you have a AI persona of him and use his writing style. So that's good to know. So you're free to use there. Thank you, Dustin.
But based on all of this, it's like, Kim, I don't think your job is going to be in jeopardy for a very long time, if at all.
Yeah,
is because the human moderation has to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I use content. I'll use AI to supplement my content. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fantastic writer. It takes me ages to even want to start writing. Right? It's like I've got an article that I have due actually in the next 10 days. I'll probably wait until day 8 to get it done. Right? Just because I love it that much. But the thing is that you can use just good examples, right? You can use AI to say, write me a framework for an article about X. And it'll write that framework. And then you read through that framework and you're like, that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I do this every so often just to test how the AI systems are doing, is I will tell it to write me a local SEO, to write me all the chapters and subchapters for a book on local SEO. And every time I read through it, it still says it says Google My Business instead of Google Business Profile all the time. Mm. So it's like the system still hasn't caught up, right? There's other things that are inaccurate in there too. But again, it's just an example of, it's like if I was just to take that at face value and then have it write those chapters and then publish it on Amazon, it would be a piece of junk.
It's already 6 months outdated, right? Because it's on old data.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but using it to get started, why
Yes.
not?
Yeah.
That would save me probably at least a half an hour.
Absolutely.
Um,
I feel like that's the biggest hurdle. That's the hardest part a lot of times, especially with any type of content creation, is just getting started. And you're staring at the blank page. And so that's where I think this collaboration with the AI really helps. And we've talked
yeah.
about this where like using it to do brainstorming and say, hey, like you might not even fully have the idea of what you want to do yet. Or it's not
Right.
just, it's just a basic idea. You can start with that and start querying the AI and kind of work from there.
Well, yeah, exactly. And you can actually ask it questions. I mean, ask it, be like, again, I want you to act as an analyst, right? And I want you to tell me the 5 most important things that a dentist in San Diego would need to be able to answer to prospective customers. And it will spit out the right information almost all of the time. It's scary how good it is. But it's great because now you have something that you can go off of, right? And you can
Hmm.
still go and fact check the information, of course. But, again, it's like you were saying, it's hand in hand. You're saving time. And I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. It's the people that are out there that are selling the courses and things like that, like how to make $1,000 a day with ChatGPT. It's like those are the things like, oh God, really? Or building WordPress plugins that'll produce 5,000 pages in 50 seconds, things like
Yeah.
that. It's like that's the kind of stuff that you have to watch out for, I think, personally.
Hmm.
Definitely. What do you see as being the biggest misconception when it comes to using AI in marketing?
Biggest misconception.
Or mistake or just
That's a hard one to answer though,
yeah,
because it's still being explored, right? You were kind of mentioning I forget the resource, but that has all the prompts, right? The prompt community.
prompt
Uh,
exchange?
Yeah, the prompt
Prompt
exchange.
exchange, thank you. So you've got like something like the prompt exchange, or you've got like the Chrome extension, AirPRM, right? Which is for marketers. And you just look at like all of the different prompts and all the different use cases, and some of them break and some of them work, some of them don't, of course. But it's still, I think, too early and it's still being explored. What
Hmm.
can I do with this technology? It's like one of the interesting things that I that just in my daily work, right? It's like I've got customers that'll send me a spreadsheet and it'll have a column which is frozen and then a column of data, right? So the labels and then the data. It would take me 15 minutes to copy and paste these things together into the way I needed them. But now I could just highlight one column, copy it, highlight the other column, paste it in, highlight the other one, and hit a couple spaces and then pop it in and say, now marry these two things together. And it'll do it, right? That's an example of something that it's like silly easy to do. But like, let's take something from a marketer's side. Um, I try this prompt out every couple months, every month or so, just to make sure it still works. But like, you can go into Bard and you can say to Bard, for instance, I want to find out, what keywords are being used for, again, a dentist in San Diego. I would like these keywords to be sorted by keyword search volume, intent, and whatever else, right? And number, maybe even pay-per-click data, whatever. And it'll go ahead and it'll do a whole grid based on this data. So now I didn't have to go to Google Ad Planner to figure this out. I didn't have to figure out anything else. It just did it all for me. And then I can export it to a Google Sheet, and then I can start playing in Google Sheet from there. So, but that's something that would take like, half an hour, 45 minutes normally to put together manually. And it can be done in Bard. But I think the biggest misconception, I guess, to answer your question, is that AI is going to be a silver bullet.
Hmm.
And it's not, because you do have to find the right prompt. You have to figure out if that prompt is even going to save the right amount of time. Is it going to be accurate? We're still kind of learning all of these things. Yeah, that I guess that's the biggest misconception, I guess.
Yeah, good answer. Dustin has some input into the biggest mistake. He says, "How about write me a 2,000 word SEO optimized blog post about whatever subject?" crap prompting and creating long form content in one go is bad. Definitely. Definitely the long form content too. It's like definitely, don't tell it to just write you something, but
It
also
is.
build it out in an outline and do it in chunks for sure. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
and actually, what I like to consider content mixing, which is where, say, you write 600 words, and then you go in and you say add 2,000 words because you want to get above a certain limit. You have to go back and you have to read the entire thing all over again because it's going to insert so much crap into what you wrote just to fluff it up.
Mhm.
Whereas the easier way to do it is add 2,000 words after this line, and then now you have something that you can digest and you can read and you can kind of compare to what you just did. So that's
Very
100%
cool.
correct, Dustin. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Where do you see things heading, Ben, as far as like what marketers need to be looking out for and business owners that are looking to embrace AI or they're using it for content creation? What do those types of people need to look out for in 2024 and coming ahead?
So for business owners, what I want to make sure, I guess, that I stress is that don't look to AI as a crutch. Don't look to it as something that can replace what you're already doing. Because and we're lucky. Actually, I would have to say we're not seeing this, which is so far is awesome. And that is we're not seeing a lot of small businesses say, "Well, why should I pay you X amount of dollars a month when I can just have ChatGPT do it for $20 a month?" I really thought we were going to see that a lot, and we haven't. It may be because I think there's only a very small amount of the population that's actually very aware of AI tools. And maybe it just hasn't gotten to those small businesses yet. But don't use it as a crutch. Don't necessarily look at it and say, oh, I can save again X amount of thousands of dollars by not paying a full stack marketing company to help me because I can generate a logo inside of Midjourney in 5 seconds. Um, use it to complement what they're doing, basically. And that's, I guess, what my word of encouragement would be there. And I think in the future, we are still going to see the segments kind of branch off, where you're going to have companies that do want to do everything with AI. And then you're going to have companies that are like, no, I need human. I need a human. I want to be
Yeah.
creative. And I think what we're going to see is we're going to see consumers and search engines, of course, react differently based on those classes.
Mhm.
And so Google already has come out and stated, no, we do not want low quality content. If you give us low quality content, we are not going to promote it. I think the same thing is going to happen on images. I think the same thing is going to happen on videos. It's going to have to happen, right? Just because of the deep fakes and fakes that can be created right now. Imagine what this is going to be like 6 months from now.
Yeah, it's only going to get better and worse,
Right.
for good actors and bad actors. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
Colin, it's going to get to the point where you don't even have to show up.
Trust me, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Your video avatar could be here instead, right?
Why
Because
can't my
it's
avatar just do it? Yeah, it's just a couple
yeah,
lines of code, and the avatar can handle everything. We already got the persona. We'll
exactly.
get Dustin in here. We got Dustin's persona. We'll get
Yeah,
him.
we'll just
He
get
can do the
Dustin's
show.
persona. But it's like, I mean, actually, if you think about it, the scary thing is I mean, I know this because I've done so many with Dustin. Dustin has done so many webinars in his lifetime. You could probably feed an LLM all of his videos and probably create a Dustin that avatar right now. But again, it's like this technology. It's like we were talking about the context windows and how fast they're growing. Right? It's only been 1 year and it's gone from 25,000 to 125,000 for ChatGPT. What are we going to look at next year? What does that growth look like? Are we talking 500,000 words by the end of next year? I mean, yeah, anyway, it's going to get crazy, I think.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
We have a comment from Lesson. Ben, please spell them.
Nobody can really detect AI content yet, or very well, I should say. Like even what is it? Originality.ai, right?
I can get stuff through 100%, and it's
Oh
my
yeah.
persona.
Same
Mhm.
here. Same
So,
here.
and it's just they're good, right? They're good personas. They're so much different from the normal output of Chat
Yeah.
GPT or something like that. But it's
e-
all AI.
Exactly. So it's like you can't have an AI system analyzing a you can't have computers analyzing computer stuff. Not the word I
Yeah,
wanted to use. But anyway,
yeah,
you can't have a to analyze the computer stuff and then be able to automatically state this is written by a computer,
yeah,
right? They can't do that. And but I think that as more and more of these human moderators come in to play, they might be able to see things and detect things and basically say, "Oh no, this is low quality content." You know, they have quality content raters, of course, already. But yeah, I mean, and Google is going to, I'm sure, try and automate it as much as possible. They're going to get a lot wrong. They always do. Um, but their algorithms are going to continue to get better and better and better and better, especially with more human input. You know, when you click feedback on a link and give Google feedback, believe it or not, somebody actually reads that.
Really?
So, yes. So the more and more people that mark content as no, this is AI, 100% AI created. Yeah, that actually does get read by somebody.
yeah. I mean,
What?
it seems like people were writing there was just the poorly written content has been kind of a thing for a while now, right? Because
Mhm.
people are just like, I got to do content marketing, and they're just throwing stuff up,
Yeah.
and that became a thing where it's like, oh gosh, now I have to look through, I have to start following like the right experts. You got to find the right people because search results are just not giving you good quality
Yeah.
content, right? And even now that's already a problem. So that's just going to become even more pervasive. So what do we do? Like, how do we actually find good content or find the right answers that we're looking for besides using AI as a search tool?
Actually, I'm going to go off on a tangent because
Okay.
you just said some really interesting stuff that it just made me think about something else. So I apologize. I'm going to go off on tangent and I'll ask you what that question was again in a second. But I was just thinking about this. It's like, you know, we talk about how using AI as a collaborative partner in marketing. Why has the AI tools really sparked the imagination of marketers and just people alike? I mean, I think what is it? ChatGPT had like 100 million users per week now, or something like that, something crazy. Um, and but why has it gone and taken off it like it has? And I think the answer really comes down to something very simple, and that is things like writing, um, creating imagery, creating videos, you know, creating outlines, all of the different things that we've talked about today, programming, things like that are out of reach unless it's something that you specialize in, right? Of an average human being. Example, Dustin Stout, who we've been talking about during the entire show, is an amazing creative genius. And Dustin, you're allowed to take that. Of course, you better. And he is. He really has. He can design some amazing stuff. But I could never do that, right? Kim, you're an awesome writer, right? I could never do that. But with AI, it brings that more to into somebody's reach, I think. And I think that's the mystical quality and why we're all drawn to AI. You know, you see this like in if you start just like going through the mid journey feed and just watching what people are doing. And it's amazing. These guys are nobody is an artist in mid journey, or at least not a lot of people. And but they're coming up with some amazing content and you know, so anyway, I just wanted to go off on that tangent really quickly, is that I think that's why, because it's captured our imaginations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and it helps you kind of augment maybe some missing skills, right? Like, I'm not a graphics person or artist or all, but one of my favorite tools is SDXL, where I can go in and I can start. If you get good at prompting,
Yep.
you can get good at creating some pretty cool images, right?
Yep.
And
Mhm.
I really enjoy that. It's fun to do. And so yeah, back to the question was kind of like, hey, we've already had kind of like big data and kind of garbage data, like bad data, especially like in the top 10 lists. And this applies to kind of everything, but especially with marketing, there's just so much data out there and information out there. And again, you might go to the top 10 Google results and it's just not even good. It's all just like very general, very generic. It's not going to be the answers you need. Whatever, if you hey, top 10 SEO strategies of 2023, probably not going to be much in there that's actually going to be helpful for you. Okay. Or it's going to be so basic. You already know it if you're in that field, right? So that's already been a problem for years, right? For probably decades, really, if we're quite honest about it.
Sure.
That could get even worse now with AI.
Well, yeah, of course it can get worse with AI, right? Because it goes back to what we've been saying for the entire show. It's like we should just rename the show as Garbage In, Garbage Out.
Yeah.
You know, but these are all computers.
So then where do you go? Like
junk.
how do you get kind of the source of truth? How do you, right? Like we know personally, like we know the experts to go to for something, right? Like it's like, hey, we're going to go find that expert. We're going to find the content that we know we can trust. So like, is that the answer, is just like finding the right people to follow?
So we're going to continue to embrace AI. That is going to happen, right? I think that what is coming next for us, maybe next year, if I have to make a prediction, and that is we're going to start seeing specialized LLMs. Especially with the sense, ChatGPT is now going to allow you to basically create your own version of ChatGPT and train it however you want, right? So if I was, for instance, to create a LLM based on every article that I've written, every article in local SEO from people that I respect, every article that, say, Barry Schwartz has put out for local SEO news, right? And compile all of this into one LLM, would people use it? And I think the answer might be yes. Because it's content which is basically curated, right? It's like, come on, curation has been around since the early days of the internet. But curated content from somebody who is a known quantity, right? And so is therefore trustworthy. And then hopefully, I haven't played around with these things yet, but hopefully those LLMs will be more accurate than, say, a generalized LLM. So maybe that's where we're moving.
That kind of reminds me of people that follow playlists on Spotify or whatever. Like you have people that curate all these songs into playlists and then they get all these followers to the playlist and they become more popular or whatever. But maybe that's the way it's going to be with LLMs. People are going to, curate their own LLM, and then you'll have people that are, the followers of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think even in OpenAI's article about it, they have an example of somebody who likes recipes and puts in all of the recipes that they want so they can go ahead and query the database later.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes sense. Maybe, who knows if that's where
it'd be interesting to see the recipes it comes up with.
Yeah, right.
I kind of want to see that one. Oh man, that would be, gosh. And you know what? I think you've got a whole channel of content right there. Is like, I'm just going to make AI fed recipes. I mean, there you go. There's a whole content creation platform.
Or actually, what you could do is you could put it in there and say, I want a Frankenstein recipe between this one, and it better taste good if I like Italian.
Oh man, that's going to be great. It'd be cool to see what it comes up with. Very cool.
Definitely interesting.
Well, Ben, we definitely have to wrap up. It's been phenomenal having you. Where can people reach out to you if they'd like to know more about you and work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am on Twitter at the Social Dude, old handle, but at the Social Dude, I'm always on Twitter, especially if you got questions about local SEO. Otherwise, you can visit us at steadydemand.com. Where, as Kim was kind of saying earlier, we help businesses when it comes to local SEO. We do everything from audits to Google business profiles, facing the hardest problems when it comes to Google Maps. And whether you're a franchise enterprise or a solopreneur, we can definitely help you.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been such great information.
Thanks for having me.
I think we need to have you and Dustin on at the same time.
Oh,
I think we got to do that.
That would always
Let's do that next year.
That's always fun.
We might have too much fun. We might have to go 2 hours if we do that. I think we could have a lot of fun. I think it'd be really helpful. I think people get a lot of good tips out
Yeah.
of it. So,
Yeah.
but this has been great, Ben. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks
right.
so much. And thanks for all you're doing.
Yeah. Talk soon. Well, that was great. As usual, I've got a lot of homework to do after every show.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's been great.
And rewatching them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it'd be really cool to see what happens with Grok. That is the new Twitter X AI that's coming out. You can actually join the wait list too if you go check that out. So, we're on the wait list, and hopefully we'll get in soon. We'll get to give you guys some insights on it. So, awesome.
Let me post that link.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, anything else you want to give a shout out to, Kim, real quick before we wrap up?
Well, as always, the AI Tools database at myaitools.com or .co. Sorry, I messed that up. myaitools.co. And it's a database of different AI tools, and it's searchable, and you can basically look for what you need to accomplish, and it'll spit out a tool for you. So take a look and check it out.
Yeah, really cool. And we did talk quite a bit about Magi, and so I would definitely check that out, aiadvantageagency.com/Magi, especially if you kind of want to go to that next level, if you've been running into, kind of context window and things that you're just not liking the output of ChatGPT, you want to take it a step further, I would definitely go check that out. Awesome. Well, great show. Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Have a good week.